case you confused it with Varna, please let this be funnier than Bridesmaids.
Baccarat.
Sir, that is a glass, not a card game. Isn't James Bond supposed to know that shit?
Exquisite.
Is a smashed glass at a wedding really so abnormal an event that it's worth immediately abandoning your post for? This room has a baffling array of lighting, which includes these two lamps here that appear to be lighting the same area of nothing, whatever the this situation is that I assume is supposed to assist with reading but is way over the top. And finally, these two wall lights that are lighting everything except the work of art that you assume would receive the most benefit from being properly lit.
I made sure to erase any witnesses. And then I erased the erasers.
These dumb bastards didn't think it was odd that they were going to be allowed to know the location of the nuke when no one else was. Also, wearing your scarf on the outside of your coat. Your scarf should always be on the inside of your coat to ensure your neck is kept warm while you do your henchman murdering.
I'd say you'd better stop.
As hilarious as accidental gunshots to the head are, shouldn't a highly trained agent like Fine have better trigger control than this?
Should have brought more bullets.
Can I also recommend that, as a spy, you should probably refrain from carelessly discarding the highly incriminating firearm from your recent freak pollen-based shooting? Also, yes, you really should have. Was one clip really all I thought he would need if shit went sideways?
Unfortunately, there's vermin in the ceiling again, and I hate to say it, but they've pooped all over your cake.
What rat would poop all over a cake but not eat any of it? Keeping a variety of top-secret login details on easily stealable Post-it notes. Although I prefer it to the 1,000 cuts a second shake-a-cam fights that usually offend my eyeballs, this fight is still super sinful. I mean, these first two guys have guns, but for some reason this third chap has come to the party completely unarmed. Then this dumbass, who is armed, runs in gun first instead of hanging back and using it as God and the Second Amendment intended. And what happened to the guy Susan saw over here on the left of the heat map? Did he see the first guard get disarmed and think, nope, I've seen this movie and it does not end well for me, I'm out of here. When I see this many people missing a single target running in a straight line, my brain just completely checks out of the movie and starts wondering about random shit. Like, if I bought a 3D printer, could I 3D print the parts to make another 3D printer and then sell it? And then isn't that like having infinite wishes? But if that's possible, why isn't everyone rich? And would that actually destroy the economy and then civilization as we know it would collapse? This finally gives Quackus the evolutionary wiggle room they've needed to become the dominant species, and all of this is because of Paul Feig's Spy. Fucking Spy.
Killer, Susan.
Choosing this to be the moment you cut to credits. Movie attempts to do a Bond-style opening song and succeeds. Unfortunately, it ends up being one of the really shit Bond openings like Die Another Day or The Rise of Gru. These fucknuts are going out to dinner to celebrate a job well done. For future reference, losing the only known link to a missing nuke in a freak pollen-based shooting counts as a job well done.
The crazy cuff gang!
Only in Movieland would a charming spy actually think this is an appropriate gift for a colleague and insist on them wearing it in a fancy restaurant. Look, guys, you already made it abundantly clear how detached from reality we are when you made Melissa McCarthy play a character that is 10,000 times more awkward than Darwinism would allow.
They would never let me be a spy.
Main character explains all the ways the thing that happens for the rest of the movie could never happen, and of course it happens.
It's not pink eye, ma'am. It's just I'm having a bit of an allergic reaction.
Well, I'm allergic to disgusting childhood illnesses, so stay away from me.
And I'm allergic to unfunny bits based on disgusting child illnesses, but we all have a job to do, lady.
I'm 40. I live by myself.
Ooh, I have a gadget for this. Skip!
You're exciting. Do you know what? You play it too safe.
Those two traits are pretty much the opposite of each other. Is that floating broccoli?
Susan, you're killing it.
Susan is clearly in the middle of an operation with Fine, and this dumbass is interrupting her to tell her how good the dessert is.
Now grab some tissues, because it's about to get real sad.
Except it doesn't. Since we don't see Fine die, and I'm guessing the majority of us have actually seen a movie before, we know there is a 103% chance he's still alive. I'm not good at math.
Susan, I got your assessment report on Raina Boyanoff. I know you're probably feeling a lot of emotion right now, but please refrain from using the term thunder cunt.
Yeah, it's almost like Susan shouldn't be at work after losing a dear friend and mentor. Does the CIA not have bereavement pay?
Nancy, I'm sending you a photo. It's in pretty bad shape. Can you enhance it?
Did you will the picture over to Nancy's computer? Because you never did anything on your computer that resembled an email or a file share.
And means something completely different in England.
That, sir, is up for debate, unless he meant total waste of time, a nun's wimple, or someone he has an affection for. But context clues suggest he absolutely meant this as a derogatory slur, referring to the female genitalia. And I can't believe I have A, spent 10 seconds explaining that, and B, spent a full hour researching it.
Here's what we do. I go into the face-off machine. Get a whole new face.
Even in a comedy, I'm not buying that anyone who would believe that a face-off machine exists would be able to get a job as a CIA spy. Also, a movie has left me to dream about a remake of Face Off that will never happen, with Jason Statham and Nick Cage. It'd be like an immovably overacting object meeting an unstoppably overacting force.
I must have watched this 15 times now, because what the
I almost want to take a sin off for Allison Janney because she's f***ing awesome, as always. But this movie also has too little of her in it, so my hands are tied.
Normally I would send you back to the farm, but there's no time.
I love seeing Melissa McCarthy kick all the ass, but the movie still could have come up with a more plausible explanation as to how she gets sent out with zero field training experience in the last 10 years. How is it possible the agency only had 4 people employed as field agents?
There was a 13-year-old girl named Carol that used to kind of take me around the neighborhood and use my braid as a dog leash.
Hey, that's number 14 on the list of things I'd rather be doing than watching this movie. Comes just before reenacting the burial of my pet hamster Reginald through the medium of Lego, but just after watching Nymphomaniac Volume 2 with my grandparents. Again.
Carol Jenkins is a single mother of 4, temporarily relocated from Delaware.
Using made-up states in your cover story.
I was given specific instructions by Elaine to tailor these gadgets to you. These are not yours.
Oh, fuck you, movie. He even looked down at these gadgets when he said that. What the fuck else were they supposed to think? But also, why isn't she getting these gadgets? The other agents have been compromised, so who else needs to use them? Shouldn't all the other agents be benched?
This antifungal spray can freeze and disable any security system.
Any? Any security system? Any? Does he know what he just said? Any security system. Any.
Looks like they put you up in the shits, Carlton.
I get the idea of keeping a low profile while undercover, but I'm sure Paris has plenty of options that are less fancy, but don't also give off the bathroom from Saw vibe.
Well, I make a habit of doing things that people say I can't do.
Like convincingly becoming a hero in a movie franchise where the previous film he blew up a hospital full of adults and children. Well, scratch the convincingly part. I was just trying to be nice because I forgot who I was.
This arm has been ripped off completely and reattached with this fucking arm.
Okay, fine. This Jason Statham does Chuck Norris shit is pretty fucking funny, and Statham is on point for the whole movie. Reluctant sin removal for this The fucking dude in charge of burning down an incriminating base of operations not only stands there to admire his work, but also doesn't notice that he's being fucking filmed for the world to see. This would be an incriminatingly dumb move for a regular arsonist, let alone an arms-dealing, terrorist collaborating arsonist.
Was it your mission to tip off the target so he burns everything in advance?
Does every spy in the CIA have conversations this loudly in public about all their secret shit? No wonder all the agents were uncovered. I don't think Raina even had to try that hard.
Was he what? He looks like he's in the cast of Newsies.
Newsies shaming.
Nancy, do you see that?
The arsonist conveniently showing up so you don't actually have to do any investigating, Susan? Yes, I do see that, and I don't like it.
He's got a friend.
I guess I should feel bad for Susan getting outed here, but she's the one running through the streets of Paris screaming a CIA agent's name, so this is 100% on her. Even when this movie came out, this reference to the band that won the 2007 Eurovision Song Contest was 8 years out of date. It just leaves me wondering why even bother, and what the hell is Eurovision? The stage doesn't have a single member of security preventing shit like this from happening. I mean, who wouldn't be mobbing the 2007 winner of the Songavision Euro Olympics dance contest?
I'm following him in.
What?
Why is Nancy so against this? I know she doesn't want Susan to get hurt, but if that picture gets to Raina or to Luca, then there's an even greater chance Susan will get hurt or killed. This isn't an ideal situation, but Nancy should realize Susan at least needs to try and get a hold of that picture. Be a better friend, Nancy. This movie has some great running bits, like the randomly placed mice in the office and Jason Statham acting like he's not in on the joke, which makes it even more annoying that the majority of the movie plays out like a tired sitcom that is no longer relevant or funny. No! This conveniently missing portion of fencing is extremely convenient. Well, not for him. Stop showing me vomited movies, goddammit! Susan doesn't have a concussion after this fall into concrete.
I was just testing the camera.
While also giving a vital clue to anyone who may get their hands on this camera to advance the plot of a movie that can't think of anything other than sheer dumb luck to propel its characters from scene to scene.
Well, there's the 10 cats. Just missing a shirt that says I've never felt the touch of a man.
God damn, this movie is all the offensive. Is it so hard to believe there are people who might just like cats and perhaps don't want to feel the touch of a man? I am those people. Also, how exactly does this even qualify as a change in disguise?
Did you just grab my butt?
Based on this display of what we think happens in Rome, I'm not shocked the Italians hate Americans.
I don't have a gun. I am just aroused from looking at you.
I love Peter Serafinowicz as much as the next person, but character of Aldo is dialed up at least 11 notches too many, especially for an undercover agent that he may or may not be.
Okay, I'm going offline, Nancy.
Wait.
Because there's no way I will need any help at all as I infiltrate this group of dangerous terrorist collaborators.
Let me just Rub that for luck.
Rubbing someone's scalp without their explicit consent.
I don't see you on the list. I'm so sorry.
She's with me.
Which raises the question, after quitting the CIA, how did he get on the list? Let me guess, he disguised himself as Sir Michael Caine, grew an extra dick on his leg, and cockneyed his way into the party? Either everyone in this movie is fucking terrible at their job, or Susan is a fucking magnet for shady people doing shady things. Forget her training. Her most valuable asset so far has been dumb fucking luck. Raina has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 guards around her. You'd think at least one of the f***ers would be personally tasked with tracking her beverage from bottle to gullet.
I don't want your drink.
What the f*** did she threaten him with that would convince him to down this drink he knows is poisonous? Being in the rest of the movie?
Christo was supposed to be looking after me at the bar and making sure nobody put anything in my drinks.
So one of them was on drink duty? Did it not occur to her that he might find the task rather difficult when she spotted him not at the bar?
You know, I once saw someone eat one of these before.
Only in a movie would Susan be presented with food that looks exactly like a hand towel she attempted to eat earlier, because we just gotta really hammer home how naive she is.
But Susan, she's sending a code.
Something she wouldn't have to do if she hadn't taken her f***ing earpiece out for no goddamn reason.
If you ever feel like you have been poisoned, chew one of these.
Maybe it would have been a good idea to keep the pills closer, at least when you're most at risk of being poisoned, like when you're drinking a glass of champagne presented to you by a woman that you know has already killed an agent. I can't say it's impossible that this apple would be the only thing to be sucked up, despite being surrounded by other similar fruit that seem entirely unaffected by the same laws of physics, but I am going to say it's about as likely as getting through the rest of this movie with no additional sins.
That was weird.
Okay, it's one thing to let the convenience of movie magic save the day, but to have your f***ing protagonist observe it as well firmly puts this in the realm of Bugs Bunny. Susan is now pulling plane schematics from her memory, I guess. I know Susan is supposed to be very skilled at what she does, but she's not a f***ing superhero.
Oh, God! One of these dead f***ers just shit his pants.
This movie is getting a sequel.
You and your bull accent can land this f***ing plane by yourself.
How are you going to f***ing land the plane, Susan?
I'm the person that's gonna cut your dick off and glue it to your forehead so you look like a limp unicorn.
Okay, Susan's switch to wisecracking badass is pretty awesome. I am stunned Raina has lasted as long as she has in the arms dealing game, because these are the most obvious hidden cameras I've ever seen. You want to hide that shit in a flower, behind a two-way mirror, or in the TV. My college girlfriend never found any of mine.
What are you doing here?
Elaine wanted to know exactly what you're up to, so I tracked your earpiece. They sent me here to find you.
What? I realize they don't want to put the exposed agents in harm's way, but they sent f***ing Nancy.
You want me to have Cagney and Lacey explain it to you?
Cagney and Lacey references in 2015. And now for a car chase that has about as much tension and entertainment value as watching me try to catch toast at the exact second it pops out of the toaster. And no, I will not be streaming that on Twitch. This bullshit motorbike that is barely a scooter is able to get through this wet concrete and still be drivable.
Crawl with me!
Susan is able to keep her cover from being blown even after all this Nanciness happens.
This f***ery stops now.
Nope. This f***ery still has about 40 minutes left.
Excuse me, do you know if there's a Popeye's chicken around here?
Melissa McCarthy's husband is in a Melissa McCarthy movie that he didn't direct, cliche.
Okay, enough!
If Susan is this good of a shot, why hasn't she taken out a tire before now?
And I'm sorry about this, too.
Susan decides the best way to avoid a sniper is to drive out in the open on a scooter.
I've already contacted the agency.
Oh, come on.
This man is apparently the CIA's only asset in Italy, which makes even less f***ing sense when we find out he works for MI6.
You look like a perverted bus driver!
Susan Cooper would be the #1 spy at CinemaSins.
All right, Cooper, I've got this under control.
Will people please stop calling the undercover spies by their actual f***ing names? Leah finds a great spot to hide and immediately negates that advantage by revealing herself in the loudest way possible. The salad tossing works, which is not a sentence I expected to say twice this week. Maybe this is on me, but I just didn't come into this spy spoof mentally prepared to see a knife going through a hand in slow motion and in excruciating detail.
You are under arrest by Susan Cooper and the government of the United States.
I've checked, and this is the only time in the history of policing that anyone has ever referred to themselves in the third person while making an arrest, which makes this the dumbest way that Susan could have possibly given herself away to Raina, not to mention totally unnecessary for the plot. We would have just assumed that Fine exposed her. Why are we so determined to make this protagonist as dumb as possible while also impossibly smart when needed?
Poor little pathetic Susan Coleman.
Well, that's not my last name, so it's really not much of a burn, is it?
Cooping.
This incorrect name calling goes on for all the some time.
Like I'd waste a bullet on you. Put her in the room.
Sure, keep her alive for no other reason than bullet economy. Oh, and while you're taking the dumbass pills, make sure to keep her in the same room as her accomplice. There's no way that could possibly backfire. Why is Aldo still alive? If she was willing to kill Susan, I don't know why Raina would leave Aldo alive this long. And I can't imagine Fine would fight for his life the way he is for Susan.
I hated to do it to you, Coop, but I had to. Raina knew all about our agents because Karen Walker sold her the names.
Let's talk about the good guy's plan. Fine somehow found out that Karen was selling CIA agents' identities to Raina. Instead of telling anyone about this breach, he decided to seduce Raina and convince her that he was also willing to betray the CIA, all while allowing Karen to roam free and put multiple agents at risk and expecting everyone to believe that he's still a good guy. Fine. I mean, great. I mean, bullshit.
Hello, bound lady.
Scene does not contain Jennifer Tilly or Gina Gershon.
My penis may be gently kissing the back of your head.
This movie has a 7 out of 10 rating on IMDb. Luckily for Susan and Aldo, there were no guards outside their room. There were seriously no guards outside their room. McSpiver. And Susan knows how to get into this car without damaging it and hotwire it because, of course she does. Still not as bullshitty as learning how to land a plane on the fly, but still pretty bullshitty for someone who hasn't been in the field for 10 years. Movie becomes a BMW commercial for the next 30 seconds. We've seen some pretty unbelievable shit in this movie, but let's break down what Susan would have to do to pull this off. Fine, she's rigged the car to keep driving, but she either also rigged it to somehow turn through these bends, or she controlled the steering until the last second and jumped out of a car while it was out of sight and without a scratch on her or her clothing. Fine. I mean, great. I mean, bullshit. Also, I think the designers of this car should really think about dialing in the sensitivity of the airbag trigger.
It could be in your best interest to keep Fine and me alive.
I'm trying, but I'm not quite following your logic.
Me too, buddy. Susan argues that because she's kept Raina alive all this time, that's enough reason to keep her and Fine around for the exchange with Dudiet. DeLuca will accept her logic despite having no bearing on why he needs them for the coming exchange, other than maybe he just enjoys being reminded of the Gilmore Girls and overly stylized Sherlock Holmes adaptations.
Enough with the bullshit. Where is the package?
This Russian accent.
What the f are you doing?
Conducting business.
If this was DeLuca's plan all along, it makes even less sense to keep Susan and Fine alive. The whole reason Susan gave him was that she knew how to deal with Dudiev, but clearly DeLuca didn't need her help.
I have a buyer who's willing to pay me 500 million euros for it. And Dudiev would have never been able to get that bomb onto American soil.
I can see him being motivated by the extra cash, but what the f does he care if the nuke is used or not? Of course, this is to make him extra evil, but this is like McDonald's refusing to sell me 10 Big Mac meals unless I send proof of consumption. They really don't give a shit as long as I've paid them.
It's just cleaner that way, you understand.
Explain it to me, DeLuca!
Ford inexplicably waits for DeLuca to say something that he can have a quippy reply to and loudly announce his entrance, instead of doing literally anything else that an actual spy would do. DeLuca has 6 guards around him, and all of them do fuck all as Susan pushes Raina out of the way, grabs a gun, and shoots their boss. Look, they haven't even got their fucking weapons drawn. I'm struggling to understand why Fine is standing by this pillar and not getting involved. If he's worried about risking his cover story, couldn't he pass off helping Susan with these henchmen as defending Raina?
Push it over!
Why wouldn't she just tell Raina to shoot DeLuca? That would be a lot quicker and more effective, considering the scenario Susan finds herself in. Tom Cruise showed up this day to fill in for the helicopter stunt, and it was weird because no one even called him or asked him to come.
Sorry, Spy. Playtime's over.
What is he waiting for here? There's no reason for him to be quipping instead of shooting her, other than, nope, I got nothing. I don't even have anything sarcastic to say. This movie has sucked the funny out of me.
This is the ugliest f***ing necklace I've ever seen.
Yes, it is! And it's all yours! With an adjustable toggle!
I bet you weren't expecting that callback, were you? No, of course you weren't, because that is one of the dumbest examples of foreshadowing ever put to film. In fact, Chekhov's gun should now be renamed Melissa's Cupcake. Actually, I'm going to workshop that a bit more. Susan will just as easily learn to fly this helicopter as she did the plane earlier because this movie doesn't give a shit about the details. Who the f*** is this guy?
Nice copter! Where'd you get it?
It's 50 cents! I had to deputize him to let us use it.
Susan and Nancy are able to have a conversation between flying helicopters. Also, somehow, Nancy Drew here knew that Susan's escape would culminate in a helicopter chase and knew to be in this exact spot way before anyone could have known that anything remotely like this was going down. Divers were able to find a nuclear device dropped into the middle of a fucking huge lake this quickly.
Hey! F*** you too.
I'm sorry, I must have dozed off. Did I somehow miss the part where they're fucking friends now? When did that shit happen? Last I checked, Raina was still guilty of attempting to sell nukes to terrorists.
I spy with my bored little eye.
And then I erase the erasers.
You've just been erased.
You know, he could have got me a VCR, he could have got me a set of golf clubs, but no, he has to get me the woman repeller.
I thought I was gonna be this amazing spy. I'm just the same boring person I was before.
I mean, I don't think it's weird making fruit friends.
All the souls I have encountered, his was the most human.
Here's what we do. I go into the face-off machine, get a whole new face.
Do you have quarters? Because it costs 50 cents.
I'd like to take his face off.
What are you doing in here? You are completely compromising me right now.
The minute he gets involved, you can kiss goodbye to any finesse because She-Hulk here only knows how to smash. I'll go 6 months without eyesight. Well, everybody you've ever loved has come down.
That's exactly why I hate working with you. It's your voice. It's your nasally, prepubescent Harry Potter voice.
I've been driving a Lincoln since long before anybody paid me to drive one.
Bobby Cannavale.
With an adjustable toggle!